One of the limitations of an ASP.NET application was the fact that you pretty much had to host it on a Windows server. However, with ASP.NET Core, not only can you host it on a Windows server, but you can also host it on a Linux server or a Mac. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to install an ASP.NET Core in .NET 5 application on Ubuntu 20.04. Now for more ASP.NET Core coding tutorials, visit roundthecode.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/roundthecode and follow us on Twitter, it's @roundthecode. So now we're going to go ahead and sign up for some hosting to host our ASP.NET Core application. And I've gone for A2 hosting, and the reason being is they've got a number of different packages at very affordable prices. So if you want to get your own web hosting from them, go to roundthecode.com/hosting. Now we're having a look at the shared hosting here, and as you can see, they've got some very affordable prices. So it starts off at $1.99. You get one website, 100 gig of storage, and it goes up to $9.99, unlimited websites, free automatic backups, site migration, that sort of stuff. So, you know, a lot of stuff there. The problem with shared hosting though is that you can't really configure the server to suit your needs. So there's a very high chance that it won't have ASP.NET Core's runtime on there. So we probably won't even be able to run an ASP.NET Core application on there. Also with shared hosting is that you're sharing your website with a lot of other different websites. And if one of them goes really slow, it can take out the whole server. So what we want to do is we're going to have a look at VPS hosting. So we've got two options here. We've got managed VPS. And I think what that is basically if you're not too sure about configuring your server properly, you get a little bit more support, but pay a little bit more money. We've also got unmanaged VPS, which is the opposite. You pretty much manage your own server. I mean, you do get support from them, but it's not as much, but it is a lot cheaper. So let's go with that and let's see what they can offer us. Okay, so we've got a couple of different packages here. We've got the runaway one at $4.99 a month. That gives you 1 gig of RAM, 150 gigs of storage, 2 terabyte transfer and 1 core. And it goes up to the maximum $30 a month. You get 8 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte transfer and 2 cores. So let's compare that price into British pounds. And as you can see, £3.74 a month up to £22.46 a month. And let's just have a look in euros as well if you're in Europe. So let's go back to US dollars. Now we're going to select, because we're only sort of testing this out to see if it works. We've got a very small application that we're going to upload. We're just going to go for the runaway one. So we're going to click on that. So now we need to choose our domain. And what I'm going to do with this is basically I'm going to set up a subdomain on roundthecode.com. And I'm basically going to point it to our new server once it's created. So I'm going to select our domain on here. We click use. Okay, so the billing cycle, this is a good thing as well with A2 hosting, is that basically if you want your server for longer, you can basically pay that little bit less per month. So you'll actually have a bigger saving. Now we're not going to need it for, you know, for 36 months. We only really need it for 1 month. So we're going to have to pay a little bit more, but still $6.99, still very affordable. I'm sure you agree. So we're going to select Europe. Operating system, we're going to select Ubuntu. Ubuntu 20.04 supports ASP.NET Core in .NET 5 applications. We can leave that as it is and we can go and continue. Okay, so now we're ready to check out. So what I need to do now is I need to go ahead and actually purchase this hosting, set up the configuration for my domain name so it's actually pointing to the new web server. And once I've done that, I'll come back and I'll show you how to set up an ASP.NET Core in .NET 5 application in Ubuntu 20.04. So now we're going to configure our server to install our ASP.NET Core application. Now, as you can see here, we've got our control panel loaded in. This gives us some information. So this is the server information. It's given us the IP address, and this is important because we now know where the server's hosted and we can point our domain name to that particular IP. So what I've done is in my roundthecode.com A records, I've set up a new A record. I pointed .net.roundthecode.com to point to that particular IP address. As you can see, it's already set up. So .net.roundthecode.com actually points to our particular server. So a couple of other things we've got the customize your hosting. It's given us some particular options on there. The stuff we were setting up as we were setting up our server, and some additional information as well. So this gives us an SSH information, and we're going to be using SSH to actually install all the stuff that we need to. So it gives us the host name. We can run it off test.roundthecode.com as well. It's given us our username and a password, which we can reveal with this eye icon here. And so going down a bit further, so if we go back to server information, as you can see, yeah, so it gives us the actual operating system. So we can go ahead, we can start and stop the server, we can restart it, or we can turn it off. And going down here as well, we've got some basic details, how much disk usage has been used, the CPU, some graphs about bandwidth, network speed, monthly charts, some settings that we can change. We can basically go ahead and install a new operating system if we want to upgrade our Ubuntu version or install a completely different Linux version onto our server. And finally, we can look at services and we can see that there's already a number of services running, and one includes Apache 2, where we're basically going to be hosting our actual application. Okay, so now what we've done is we've created an ASP.NET Core Web API application. It's very simple, so if I run it for you. So as you can see, we've got a couple of endpoints. It's not hooked up to a database or anything, but we're just going to test to see if it works. So we're going to try out this one. So as you can see, it's returning some programming languages there. And if we load this one as well, try it out. And as you can see, it's got some operating systems there. So we know our ASP.NET Core Web API is actually working. So we can go ahead and stop that. We need to make a slight change to this, because basically what's going to happen is basically we're going to host our ASP.NET Core application on a Kestrel server in our actual VPS, and then we're going to proxy it in through Apache. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and just make this forward headers command in the configuration, in the configure services, no, in the configuration. So that goes in like that. Let's go ahead now and publish it. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish it to a folder. Click next. So happy with that. Let's go ahead and publish it to that folder. Okay, so if we open that up, we should be able to see all our actual files on there. Okay, so that's basically our application published. Now we need to go ahead and configure our server. So the next thing we need to do is basically connect to our server using SSH. So what I've done with this is I've basically opened up a PowerShell window in administration mode, and I'm basically going to run the SSH command. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's SSH, it's the username, which is root, at the server name .net.roundthecode.com, and normally SSH is configured on port 22, but with A2 hosting it's configured with 7822, so we need to pass in a P parameter and put in the port number. Now I need to go ahead and enter my password. So you can see now I'm connected to my server using SSH. First thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and actually create a new user for it. So in order to do that, I'm going to run the sudo.adduser command and add a new user of roundthecode. Give it a password, confirm the password, and then we can just press enter for all that, and that's all now set up for us. Next thing we need to do is we basically need to install something called Nano, and Nano is basically a text editor in SSH that we can use, so we can actually do some configuration. So in order to do that, we run sudo apt install nano, and that will go ahead and install our Nano package. Okay, so that's now installed for us. Now, normally you'd have to install Apache 2 at this stage, but with A2 hosting, it's already been installed. But if you need to do it, you can run apt install Apache 2, and that will actually go ahead and install it. So it says that we've already got the newest version on there, so we don't need to do that. What we do need to do, though, is enable some mods on there. So the first one we need to enable is rewrite. So we've done that. We also need to enable proxy, proxy underscore HTTP, headers, and SSL. So that's that done for us. Next thing we need to do is we basically need to create a new configuration file. So we're going to run it using Nano, so that's the text editor we just installed, and it's located in etc Apache 2 sitesenabled.api.conf. So this has basically created a file for us. We've already created this for us, and basically what this is doing is it's set up a couple of new hosts. It's set up our forwarded headers up here, and then we've got a new virtual host here, which is basically going to proxy in from our Kestrel server, which is going to run on port 5000, which we'll set up in a little bit. Got a server name, alias, and we've set up some custom error logs and custom logs. So in order to get out of this, we press Control X. Normally that will ask us if we want to save it, if we made changes, or it's a new file, and we would just type the Y button. Now that we've gone ahead and done that, we need to go ahead and actually restart our Apache server. Like so. Now that that's happened, we basically need to get the files uploaded onto our actual server. So we're going to use FileZilla for this, and what I've done is I've basically gone ahead and created a new SFTP profile here. The host is .net.roundthecode.com, and it's basically used in SSH, so it's the same port number there, 7822. This is the username we just connected, we just set up, round the code. We've put the password in there as well, so we're going to go ahead and actually connect that to us. So this is now located at home, round the code. This is our profile for round the code. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new directory in here, call it API, and we're basically going to upload our publish folders onto our server, publish files even. Okay, so that's pretty much done. Is it all up there? Yes, it's all up there now. So what we can do is we can basically go back to our SSH, and what we need to do now is we basically need to copy these files over from the home round the code folder to far www. Now, in order to do that, we run sudo cp -r, and it's called home round the code API. So this is basically going to copy it from home round the code API to far www. Okay, so that's now copied our files into far www/API. What we need to do is just set some permissions on here. So we basically want to set the group owner, and we're going to set it for www-data. And that's going to be in far www/API. Okay, so that's now done. What we need to do next is we basically need to actually install the application. Now to do that, what I need to do is basically need to install the advanced package tool from Microsoft. So in order to do that, what I can do is I can basically go ahead and run this command here. So I'll go ahead and get all the packages, and we also need to go ahead and install this as well. So that's that done. What we need to do now is do an apt-get update, like so, and then we need to do a couple of installations. So we need to install apt transport HTTPS, already installed for us, but you will have to do that. And we also need to install the ASP.NET Core Runtime 5.0. So that's now been installed for us. So the next thing we need to do is we basically need to go ahead and create a service for us. So we run sudo nano etc system the system api.service, and we're basically going to run our application as a service. So I've already created this for us, but basically we're giving it a working directory. So this is where we've uploaded our actual files to. It's where the directory is for our ASP.NET Core application. It's running .NET, and that's the main application that it's going to run. So it's roundthecode.myapi.dll. Couple of other things, we've got the user www.data. It's running in production mode, and that's all pretty good. So in order to do that, we now need to enable it. So we run sudo systemctl enable api.service, and then we need to go ahead and start it.
And we can just check that it's running by running sudo ctl systemctl status api.service. And as you can see, our actual configuration is running on localhost 5000. Now, before this is going to work, I've just noticed I've made a slight error with the actual Apache configuration. So I need to go ahead and make a change to that. So in order to do that, what I need to do is I need to run sudo nano etc Apache 2 sites enabled api.configuration. So up here with the virtual hosts, I need to basically add .com in there. So I've gone ahead and saved that, Control and X to exit, and that's now been saved for us. Need to go ahead and actually restart the Apache server. So in order to do that, I run systemctl restart Apache 2. Okay, so now our application should be running, so let's give it a go and see if it's going to work. So we've got our API endpoints there. You can see now it's passing in our languages. And let's just try out our other API endpoint. As you can see, that's working for us as well. So that's one of the benefits of writing an ASP.NET Core application. Not only can you host it on a Windows server, but you can host it on a Linux server as well. And Linux servers tend to be a lot cheaper than Windows servers, so you're going to save yourself a lot of money. Now, thanks very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.